So that's weird because I've had Zoom issues after I've used it like 10 times, the audio cuts out. But I
So
have a laptop that's been giving a lot of problems. It has.
it's not the laptop. So an IT guy of mine has been able to get into the Zoom traffic center, let's say, and Zoom will do certain things during certain times and it will screw up the Zoom signal. It's probably not your laptop. I know.
My laptop does Gmail where I will be typing something and then all of a sudden it just shuts the window down and opens up a new one without me touching anything.
Then it's the laptop.
And I actually took this one because it's like maybe a year old. I took it to the Apple store. They looked, they were like, yeah, there's something wrong. They kept it for 3 weeks
And
sent it back, and it kept doing it.
so what do you do now? Gotta wait for them to reopen.
I wait for them to reopen.
You go back.
How are you?
I'm well. You look terrific.
Well, thankfully, Zoom's resolution is really low.
No, it's really high. It's high def. And I watched the Real Deal with you and John and Lisa, and I thought you were terrific. And I'm not just preaching. I thought it was great. I watched the whole thing.
I don't want to watch any of what I do.
I don't watch any of what I
just do it, and that's it. And I don't want to hear or see it ever again.
There you go. But you're well.
Yeah.
You're in the city. You're out of the city.
Out of the city. We're up in northern Westchester, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, what some people are going through, I cannot even imagine. I've heard the stories, and even if you aren't sick or dealing with all the other stuff, it's difficult. It's difficult when you're in a confined space. It's very tough. I mean, I'm looking out of your window. It's pretty. Most people are not seeing that.
There's a nice tree back there. You had a spectacular day yesterday.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Except I ruined my day yesterday because I was working outside in the garden and I was attacked by gnats.
Oh!
And I'd been attacked by them a week ago and I get infected from them and I welt up and they went and rebit the welts from last week. It's just disgusting.
God. My mom's 80th birthday was yesterday, so I drove to Millwood to see her, and we had a spectacular couple of hours across a lawn, 20 feet away, and then we left. So it was really a great day.
Where are you located right now?
Right now I'm in Quag.
Oh, very nice.
Been in Quag for 35 days, and I mean these are great problems to have. We're trying to figure out which dinner we're going to repeat from the last 35 days, and we know how blessed we are. That's
really
that's it's a big deal. But you're well. Let's get cranking. I do the fun stuff first. What are you watching other than gnats? Netflix, Apple, Amazon? Do you have any?
All of the above.
All of the above.
I've watched a lot of television, great shows. It's actually been kind of amazing. I never have that much time for entertainment, and it's been really kind of wonderful, to catch up on a full series of what's it called? I can't even remember the shows anymore. And I've watched so many of them. What is the one up in Arkansas?
Ozark.
Ozark, yes. Loved Ozark. Yeah. Loved Tiger King. It's disturbing, but have seen so many great shows, and that's actually been kind of a fun part of it. And I'm so thankful for technology and televisions. It's really been a saving grace, because if you're stuck in the house, you see that and you feel like you've escaped, and that's kind of wonderful.
No question about it. I can't imagine what this is like for the people who went through the Spanish flu without, Zoom. It would be a completely different dynamic. I talk to my mom twice a day, every single day, and I will say that she lives 2 blocks away from me on 79th Street, and there could be a week where I don't go talking to her. So it's an incredible new dynamic. So Ozark is on the list. What's keeping you motivated at this time of insanity?
The future. I keep thinking of the future, and I keep thinking of all the things that we had to leave behind that are coming back, and that's very motivational. I think of a fabulous breakfast on the terrace of the Hotel du Cap. I think of a simple cappuccino at the bar of San Ambrose, and those things drive me forward.
It's always the little things. And so what's keeping you grounded?
What's keeping me grounded is the day-to-day survival aspect of this here. You have to make your bed. You cannot let a housekeeper into the house.
No.
You cannot go to restaurants. Delivery was not an option. And so all of those day-to-day things keep you very grounded. And I think that's probably very helpful because staying busy is the best thing.
Now I'm going to skip because, you are the chief evangelist at Compass.
Praise be.
How did that come to be?
Well, I started almost 6 years ago, actually, as of June 2014. I started as the company president, but the company was a 50-person operation, mostly administrative. There were some rental agents, mostly rental agents, and then a few in the resale business in the traditional model had just begun. Okay. Because when I joined, Compass actually switched from its original business model, which had failed, which was to have paid neighborhood specialists connected to people via algorithmic search engines. And I think by the time I had joined, I was definitely on the page that for this company to succeed, it had to embrace both technology and human beings. And the two working in unison, I thought was the perfect recipe because that's how I'd been working. Sure. And I thought that the opportunities within technology to improve the space was great. And then about a year and a half ago, because we had expanded into so many different regions and we had to have regional presidents on the East and the West and the midsection, I felt having a title like president was probably a little bit, it just kind of sent a confusing message to all the different regions. And because most of my role had always been focused on company culture and fueling the insights of what's happening in the street, or on the street, I should say, that was always my primary role, and then advising the company as to what my dream was of the future. So that continues. So my capacity in the company has always been that. I've never been an administrator or a manager. That's not my forte at all, or my desire. And I'm really bad at both. So that's where we, in the tech sector, Chief Evangelist is very much a title that is used commonly, mostly to infuse culture and adoption of new tools, especially tech tools within the company, which is still what I do.
Wow. And you send out, which I find unbelievable given what's on your plate on a daily basis, you send out every day an email.
Yes, I send a memo to the company every single day, and I have done so since June 2nd, 2014. And in this memo, what I try to do is, number one, provide information and content that elevates the dialogue of our conversation, saves agents and staff time not to have to look up all this stuff, because who has time to look up that stuff all the time? Otherwise, you'll be reading the whole day.
Sure. And
then I also provide a selection of listings from around the country that educate agents as to what is selling for where and by whom. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, I do a kind of like an editorial that speaks to a whole host of subject matter, mostly inspiring great ethics, professionalism, insights, and it covers a variety of subjects. Fortunately or unfortunately, I never run out of opinions or ideas. And I've been doing this now for, close to 6 years. And it's been very, very impactful because people know, number one, because of the typos and mistakes, that it's written by a human being first thing in the morning and not by a group of 10 writers.
Right.
As importantly, I think it makes the Compass family feel united in one place first thing in the morning around the country. And I think that's a nice place to get started.
That's a great place to get started. So then as a, 5 weeks sitting around and I've got a list of things that I've got to check off, do you get writer's block?
I get writer's block on occasion, but it's so easy to break that writer's block when all I have to think of is what happened in the last 24 hours? What did I experience in the last 24 hours? Or because of the reading I do prior to writing, I start reading at about 5:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. That hour of reading fuels 1,000 topics. And usually they are relative to common themes that have, uniform relevance to everything around the globe. And it's actually not been a problem. I've had writer's block on occasion, but rarely.
That's great. Now, are you keeping the same, it's torture. Are you keeping the same or a similar schedule where you are than in the city? Are you trying to?
The one thing I will say is that there have been days where I have not been in sweatpants. That's a problem because in my city life, I'm always in a suit or dressed up during the day. And for me not to dress up is actually torture. And yet the comfort of sweats is corrupting.
So I'll jump to the question, are they getting old?
they're getting old and they're getting worn. In fact, one of my sweatpants now has a hole in it. So I feel like the course of this sloppiness is coming to an end. I love Karl Lagerfeld, what he said about sweatpants. He said, "You wear sweatpants when you've just given up." I'm like, I haven't given up, but I'm really comfortable.
I think Seinfeld said that to Costanza at some point. It pretty much sends the message, you're done, you've given up. You've sent the message, that's it. So what do you, well, let's stay with isolation. What's the best meal you've had in isolation?
I have to tell you, my partner Tom has made the most phenomenal lasagna, and it's a healthier lasagna, but it is so good that I've been craving more lasagna. Now, the fact that it has a ton of carbohydrates in it may have something to do with it, but the lasagna has been phenomenal.
So which leads to, are you doing fitness to keep going? How are you burning off this lasagna?
Well, it's still there. It's stuck to my midriff. I call it the flotation device, but it's, I have always maintained that being healthy and exercising is critical to your brain function during the day. And because we run around so much, it also impacts your physical function. Sure. Today, more than ever through this entire episode, a real appreciation for a strong immune system and a healthy body is really, really valuable. I think exercising almost every single day, I would say, is critical to my existence, because it's not just for my physical well-being, it's for the mental well-being.
Yeah.
And there have been 1 or 2 days where I just didn't want to work out or even move, and those have not been good days.
And you can do the walk up there because it's beautiful, beautiful country up there. So.
It is so beautiful. I am about, across the hill from where I am is horse country, and it is picture perfect. It's as good as the Cotswolds in England, or it's really Provence quality beauty and Tuscan beauty that is kind of shocking that it's 1 hour from Manhattan. It's shocking.
And you must love it. How long have you been going up there?
We built the house and actually completed it exactly 2 years ago. It's on a little lake, cute little lake, only I think 6 or 7 houses around the lake. Barely can see neighbors. Only when the leaves are off do you see a little glimmer of a neighbor. And yet the neighbors are there when you want them, but you feel very removed. But it's super quiet, super beautiful. And the sunrises here have been, if you need hope, you just have to look out of the window.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Westchester being an hour away, it's beautiful. I lived in Croton for about 5 or 6 years, right on the river, and throw a kayak on top of the car, get in the river, and there's nothing like it. It's just, it's fantastic.
It's good stuff, and really an hour is unreal. We used to have a house further up on the Hudson River in Saugerties near Rhinebeck, which I love. But being here, I have the capacity, if I'm here on the weekend, to go into the city for 3 hours and come back, and it's not a big deal. It's like a commute. Sure. It's pretty manageable.
My mom was in Accord for years.
Beautiful.
Stonebridge, gorgeous. And there was a little tiny great restaurant called the Egg and something. And I remember the food and the land, and it was all beautiful. The problem is it's 2.25 hours. And
I co-own a restaurant actually in Rhinebeck called Market Street.
You do?
I wish I had this restaurant here because I would eat there every day. And I would wish I had one in the city because I would eat there every day as well.
The restaurant.
I love that kind of like basic home cooking, but that's of course never the way I would cook. Far from it.
But the lasagna is what you're craving.
Oh God, yes, it's so good.
And Target, Walmart, or Amazon? Which are you?
I love my Target. I've been going to Target for 30 years. I love Target. Love Target. Now, I haven't been going to Target because of the distancing right now, but I miss those trips to Target. I find it a great store. I found it a wonderful store well before it became cool. I always loved Target. I used to walk up and down the aisles when I was in my 20s, and I would dream of building houses and filling it up with all Target stuff.
Where?
don't analyze that.
I'm not analyzing it. I'm not. Now, I saw you sent out something on Instagram this morning, or the team sent out a survey.
Yes.
Which I found fascinating. Filled it out. How much content comes through. I thought it was great.
Well, you know what? I wanted to do that proactively because there's been a lot of whispering going around. People leave New York. Everyone's telling me they're leaving. I'm like, everyone? How many people have you spoken to?
Sure.
So just as we are witnessing this entire episode with coronavirus, where there's just there's so little to no data on so much stuff, and everyone's making these big conclusions.
Right.
And I'm like, let's get some data first before we come to any kind of conclusions. They don't give any opinions. And I also think it's a very raw wound. You know, I had a terrible car accident 35 years ago. And I said, I'll never go out in public again, ever, because my face was mangled. I looked like Elephant Man. But you know what, 2 weeks later, things started to heal a little bit. And I said, I'll get really big black glasses. And then I ventured out a little bit a few weeks later, and then all of a sudden it's healed a little bit more. These things take time, and for people to be making any kind of conclusions early without getting any better understanding of a broader spectrum of understanding, to me was just crazy. So we felt doing this survey would be very meaningful in gathering some data. And I can't wait to get all the data together and share it. I have to tell you, the response has been unbelievable.
I would think so. And you're going to share it tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. I probably share it probably midweek, because I want to gather some good intel, and we're going to broadcast to a lot of owners. As much as I want real estate professionals to respond, I think it's as important to have people who are not maybe, you know, with a vested interest in New York and Manhattan.
Sure.
But I will say that I'm getting emails and texts from New Yorkers who are so madly and passionately in love with their supermodel. And let's face it, New York is a supermodel. It's not the easiest thing to live with.
No.
But it's worth it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting. The message is amazing. The things that people miss in their lives right now. I think this moment has really reminded us how extraordinary a city New York is, and that how it's probably going to bounce back with even greater passion than any other city at any other time, including New York.
That's what I'm hoping. That's for
deprivation fuels appreciation.
Absolutely. No question about it. To shift to something maybe not as consequential, Oreos. Original, double stuff, or mega?
I do not relate. This fake British accent is from South Africa.
I know.
I had no clue what an Oreo was until I turned 21. So the taste of an Oreo conjures up no emotion in me whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm not an Oreo guy at all, and I don't like them, which makes me abnormal and makes me probably very un-American, but I'm sorry, I don't get it.
Pizza?
Oh God, yes, pizza, of course.
And what's your topping? What's your go-to topping on pizza?
My topping, wait for it, is a little bit, this is annoying, and I'm not a snob.
Go ahead.
Arugula, pear, truffle oil.
All right, my no kidding around, my girlfriend's in the basement working out, and that's her go-to.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God. So there is, I'll show you. There's a pizza.
Oh, you have a pizza oven. I love that.
Right. So there's a pizza oven, and when we've come out here, you know, I'm doing pepperoni with the kids and sausages and that, and she goes, I'm going to do arugula, pear, goat cheese.
Oh, yes, I have goat cheese. I forgot the goat cheese. Yes.
And when she sees this, she's going to fall down because it is spectacular.
The best.
I have
a craving for it. I have a craving for it.
That's her thing. Is that her coming up the stairs? She may have heard it. She may have like stopped her workout. Are you reading?
Yes. I read hours and hours a day. Unfortunately, a lot of it is news and media cycle reading. A lot of it is re-educating. But there were two books that I enjoyed the most over the last few weeks. One is more pictures, I'm afraid to say, than words. It's Luciani Jubilee. He's a landscape architect that I love his work. And I was once at a wedding in the Boltons in London. And I was like, why is this so beautiful? It wasn't the house that I was at, but it was a house in the neighborhood. And it's this beautiful little pocket in Chelsea in London. And this garden was done by Luciani Jubilee. And it's extraordinary. And the other one I've been reading, which is probably the opposite of what we're doing right now, is called Digital Minimalism. And we are probably experiencing right now digital maximalism. Sure. So it's an interesting read.
Is it good?
It's great. It's great. And it's a little scary because I think we've entered this era where we're going to be so digitized, and then we probably have a bit of a revolution against that because it's probably too much. And I can't wait for meeting one-on-one. I really can't.
You're not loving the Zoom as much as some.
I love the Zoom for 1,000 reasons because of our time and our moment. We have been using video conferencing since day one at Compass.
Sure.
So this is nothing new to the Compass family at all. but I still love my meetings and catching up with people. I like a handshake and a hug. I'm sorry.
I'm a hug. I can let go of the handshake, but I was raised by an Italian stepfather, and the hug's a big deal.
Yep.
And yeah, even people I don't know. So, what'd you want to be when you were a kid?
Well, just like all kids, I think I wanted to be a lot of things depending on which season it was.
Right.
But I started out wanting to be, this is disturbing. I started out wanting to be a real estate broker. I was 6 years old and I put a for sale sign up on my parents' house. And the neighbor, Mrs. Babalatakis, came running across the street with her checkbook. She was very rich. And she was like, how much? She didn't even, she whatever it was, she was going to write a check for it. And my parents were like, what are you talking about? She said, you have a for sale sign on the house. And that was my almost first sale. Then I became obsessed with building and running hotels. I thought that would be amazing. And then I changed into wanting to become an architect. And I would go visit open houses when I was 11 and 12 years old on my own. And people were like, where's your mother? She abandoned you? I was like, yes. And I abandoned her. Right. And then I would resketch these houses as to what I wanted them to be, because I was into extreme makeover at the age of 11. And I redid my parents' house and garden. And then by the time I was in my teens, I wanted to become a fashion designer. So I was in fashion. My first career was in fashion for a decade.
Wow. So it's a DNA thing.
It's a DNA thing. My first career was almost a real estate sale.
And the story is great, but does it really resonate without the woman's name being Bubala?
Mrs. Babalatakis makes the story.
That's just perfect.
Mrs. Babalatakis, by the way, her kids had the most extraordinary sports cars in the world. Oh. And I was always with my parents like, why do they have these beautiful sports cars? And he said, it's stolen money. And I was like, no, it's not. But that was the excuse.
Was it stolen money?
One of them went to jail.
Okay, well then, there you go.
But they were lovely people. Mrs. Babalatakis, I loved. She was like the grandmother I never had.
And the Ferraris got picked up about 3 days.
Oh, they had the best cars. They were gorgeous.
Now, on the premise that you can't donate it because we would all donate it, $1,000 goes towards a haircut or a pedicure or manicure, or do you take the $1,000 and say, no?
Too late for the hair because I cut it myself, as you can tell.
I did it. I did mine.
God for hair glue because it hides a lot of sins. Manicures, I've never done manicures. I've had 1 or 2 manicures done in my life, and I've always hated them because I just don't like people clipping on my nails. So I'd be much happier donating $1,000.
Got it. And I'm thinking I know the answer to this, but where's your happy place?
My happy place is a chaise lounger in this house that overlooks the lake. Unfortunately, it's also my cat Joan's favorite place, and there's an ongoing battle between the two of us.
That's right.
But my happiest place in the world is always seated on a terrace anywhere in the world with a print newspaper, eating breakfast with a view. That just enriches my soul.
That's see, there's something to look forward to.
That's something to look forward to. I have a vision of a terrace in the Mediterranean with bougainvillea, the sparkling Mediterranean, a newspaper, a good pain au chocolat, and a good cappuccino, and nothing can beat that.
Thank you. We're here all week. Try the week. Come on, we're done. There you go. What's a factoid that most people wouldn't know about you?
That I'm not a snob. I think my accent usually somehow gives people the impression that I'm snobbish, which I'm not. The other thing I would like to reveal is that my shrink, when he asked me, what do you dream of? What do you want? And I gave him the list of the things I want. And he looked at me and he said, so basically, you're a peasant. I have very simple tastes.
That's great. You know what you want.
Well, I'm also quite satisfied with a lot. I'm satisfied with what I have. I really am. I don't have this extreme craving for more. I've really never had that. I'm not that greedy. I think some people might think that because I sell a lot, I'm greedy. I really don't do it out of greed, and I'm very, very generous.
You're comfortable.
Yeah.
You're comfortable, and there's...
I hate to say this, but money is not such a new thing in my world. I've had times of extreme poverty. Believe me, when I immigrated to America, I had no money, but I grew up in a very comfortable household. So money was never that new a thing to me to make me want to crave money or
Sure.
have the trappings to show people, look, I have money. It's like, you know what? If you live in New York City and you want to run around and say, look how rich I am, chances are there'll be a lot of people who are going to be much richer than you'll ever be.
And God knows this is not going to be the time to do that.
No, it's never the time to do it. And what is so
Never. You're right.
you know what? I've seen people with tremendous fortunes lose them. You know, fortunes come and go. It's everything else that remains that's important.
That's why you're the chief evangelist.
Praise be.
There you go. All right, let's get to the business questions.
Yes.
Well, actually, I'll leave it for the end. So the question, how are things? How are things really? To your point, that's why I thought the survey you did on Instagram this morning was brilliant. It's like, okay, people say this, people say that. How are things really? How are you seeing things? You know, you're talking to team people, you're talking to your brokers. How is it going?
It's a mixed bag. It's also very regional. Remember, I'm based in Manhattan.
Sure.
And I do some Brooklyn. That is going to be very different downtown versus uptown. That's going to be different to the Hamptons, Long Island, Connecticut, New Jersey. It's going to be very different in Massachusetts, DC, Miami, Nashville, Dallas, Houston, Aspen, Los Angeles. It's just such a very broad, ultra specialized industry, real estate, and different things are happening in different parts of the world right now. Even within cities, different neighborhoods are experiencing different things. But right now, I would say we are still at the phase of this fire burning, but I feel like the fire department has circled the fire, and there's a control now, and there's a path forward to getting the fire contained. And only once the fire is contained will we start data emerging. There have been sales, there's no question about it. There have been sales. Most of them started way back when, if not a contract going out or a negotiation started, at least there was a physical viewing. There are very, very few sales happening sight unseen. Those are, you know, the rare headline making moments. But I have been getting the first wave of lowball offers. Many of those lowball offers are already quite notably up from where they started. And I think there is a harsh reality to anyone looking for big, big bargains of quality. There may be bargains amongst less quality real estate, or they may get lucky with one desperate seller.
Sure.
But the volume of cash that's sitting on standby that has been preparing for this moment, they never thought it would be coronavirus fueled. They thought it would be fueled by an economic adjustment of sorts.
Sure.
Billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Blackstone alone, I think, is 154 billion. They're waiting. They're actually, I think, a little disappointed that the prices aren't where they would like them to be.
Sure.
So I think the volume of capital on standby to buy up assets at sharply discounted rates right now, I think 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think the prices may have been better than they are today already.
Sure.
And I think that's going to improve over time. But then again, real estate is ultra localized. We will only find out region by region by region once the market starts up again.
Sure.
Everyone is drawing all kinds of market report conclusions about our market with zero data. I've never seen anything more crazy in my life.
And do you see it tracking with the market, the stock market starting to make its way back to something in a trading range, so to speak?
I think the equity markets always fuel confidence. And let's face it, they're up almost 30% from their lows. And they were very, very high. Remember that the equity markets were intensely artificially fueled to a certain degree by stockbacks fueled by borrowed capital.
Sure.
That was redistributed to lower tax rates that, you know, allowed corporations and individuals to buy back a lot of stock. When you have a lot of buyers doing that, it artificially fuels pricing. So I do think the equity markets probably were a little bit frothy.
Frothy.
Yeah, to put it mildly.
Yes.
And some people, I think, saw that happening months ago, not in the last month or two. I know of, if you look, I think JP Morgan Chase had as much of a cash infusion over the last 3 months as the 10th largest bank in total in the world. So
Wow.
just to give you an idea of how much cash is on standby waiting to buy back into the market. And that to me leads tremendous hope that when the market starts, because it hasn't started yet,
No.
there's a little bit of a trickle here and there. And let's face it, if you look at the trajectory of 9/11, it started with the low bid offers at first, or people who had to buy something because they were compelled.
Sure.
Small, audience. And then it starts to build slowly but surely, and then people start building their confidence. It's like when you've broken a leg and you're in a cast, getting up to walk for the first time is difficult. Then you walk a little bit more, then you get your cast removed, then you go for physical therapy, and then all of a sudden you're walking, but you're careful, you're walking with a stick, and then you put the stick down and you're walking, and then soon you're running. But
Sure.
that doesn't all happen within a matter of days.
No. And people, in an Instagram world, I say people have to learn patience.
Yes, unfortunately, our patience levels have been diminished gradually over time, but in the last 5 years, I think they've been exaggerated tenfold. So our desire and demand of instant gratification is almost frighteningly at an extreme. And I think at this time related to markets, we have to scale that back.
Now, there are people who are running a team of brokers. You're not running a team, you're running a company. So,
I'm not running a company.
well, I would say you're inspiring the company.
Yes.
Which in these days, you may want to play that down, but I've talked to your brokers and there's not a lot more that puts fuel in their tank than your emails. And I don't say that to blow smoke. I really believe that because that's the feedback that people tell me. So what's it like to inspire people in this time? And you're inspiring them and it's their vocation, it's their career. How does that feel?
Well, I think for me, the most gratifying part of being in my position at Compass, aside from my own team, but having this influence on the company, and you are correct. I mean, I do underplay it, and I do think I shouldn't underplay the fact that there is a role I play, one of many players in this group effort to make Compass successful. It's a very large company now.
But I'm going to cut you off for a second. But you also, what you also are underplaying, and I don't want you to, is I think you underplay in that sentence what you are in the industry in total. So
I get it.
Yeah, come on.
I'm the old guy. I'm on the wall. No, I hear you. Okay, so I'm going to try and be modest about this.
Okay.
But maybe not too modest. But I think the most important message that I have to send to everyone that I think resonates best with everyone is that I never sugarcoat things artificially with a fake, inauthentic style. I try to back up every single one of my insights or assumptions or pontifications with fact. And I think the first place to start at a time like this is to, number one, is everyone okay? We are here to help one another. Reach out if you need help. Then to celebrate all the people who are helping, which I think is important because it inspires others to do so as well. And then the most important one I would say is to, like your mother did to you. You fall, you scrape your knee, and you think it's the end of the world, and she says it's going to be okay. So I think hearing from the old guy with the gray hair and the wrinkles, that it's going to be okay, that I've actually lived through similar circumstances before, although not the same.
Sure.
And that it's going to be okay because every fire, every earthquake, every hurricane, every tornado, every mudslide, every flood has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Mm-hmm. And just the way these tragic moments have a beginning, middle, and end, so too do the good times. And we always forget that Studio 54 had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Right. The party has to end at one point too. The good times come and go, the bad times come and go, and without both, we would never appreciate the good times or do our best to fight through the tough times. So this is a message I try and broadcast on a daily basis. I also feel that the messages I always relate are human and not preachy. I try not to preach. And I try not to lecture because I think no one needs that, no one wants that, and no one really responds well to that. Mm-hmm. I think keeping things very human in a tech, let's face it, this is low tech and email, right? It's very low tech, right. But it kind of personifies tech and touch because there's a human element to it and there's a tech element to it. So you can actually feel connected from the palm of your hand anywhere in the world and yet there's a human element to it. And I think that is what resonates most, to make people feel that we will come out of this okay. I actually believe we're going to come out of this much better. Not immediately. I think there's going to be a bit of a struggle to get things going. I think we're going to have to fight and work very hard. But I think at the end of the day, the lessons we have learned through this episode are life-changing and game-changing. And I actually think the cost of this here, which is trillions of dollars, are going to be made up not only in the volume of innovation that's going to come out of this here, but it's going to come out as much purely from the savings that companies are going to do by doing Zoom calls instead of meeting everywhere. Because let's face it, the time it takes to walk from one place to an office and gather and put your coffee together, and then, or travel uptown or downtown or across country, that time savings is going to go to the bottom line of all corporations around the world. And within the next 5-10 years, I bet the dollar value of that will come very close to equaling the cost of this horrible episode in time.
It's a great way of putting it. And as you look at Manhattan, because you're right, New York is the epicenter of this, the epicenter of the planet before this. What do you think, where do you think the money's first going to go? The billions sitting on the sidelines. Do you think it's going to go into new construction? Do you think estates are going to move? Do you think townhouses are going to have a new renaissance because of the social distancing and the spacing? And I know you're getting all of this data coming, but what do you feel? What is it? What's your sense?
Look, I think the basics of life are going to drive the first wave of purchasing. And the basics of life are being together with your spouse for 6 weeks in a place could result in a divorce or another baby. So we're going to see two elements out of that for sure. Right. But then there will be a whole wave of people. Never in the history of New York City has the entire market stopped showings for 6 weeks in a row. Never.
Right.
So we have never, ever been able to gather the data or insights from that level of lockdown and pent-up demand. Oh. So the basics of the market functions are going to be the first thing that hit home. And I do think the very first thing that has started already are the bargain hunters. The vultures are out, and I don't belittle the vultures, by the way. If I had a lot of cash right now and I wanted to find a bargain, this would be the time to do that. But I also don't like the concept of taking advantage of people when they're in trouble. And yet there might be some people who need to sell, who look at the vulture and don't look at them as a vulture and look at them as a savior.
Sure.
So I think there are two arguments there, but that's the first group, and they are in the marketplace already. And I bet there are a lot of deals being negotiated right now, and I know of many that are being negotiated right now at extraordinary rates, debt repurchasing, all kinds of things are happening that are going to make people fortunes. Remember, in the last Great Recession, billionaires were minted because of that Great Recession. Right. Think of what Blackstone did with the single family house market. They made billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they bought up swaths of inventory that actually fueled pricing escalations. So yes, that has begun already. Sure. And then the next wave, when we can start showings again, will be the people like, I need a home office. I need 2 extra bedrooms. Sure. Or I've been holding off on a move out of the city. I've been holding off on a move to the city. So all those things that have been put on hold for weeks and weeks and weeks now are going to explode. And that, I think, will drive the markets because, let's face it, we are a species of herd mentality. Mm-hmm. And everyone wants what everyone wants, and everyone feels more comfortable when everyone else is doing something. So if you and I speak about an arugula pear and goat cheese pizza, you know people are going to be like, I need to try that if I haven't. You know what I mean?
You need to try it if you haven't. No, seriously, like it's not even. So the business model doesn't really change. You're thinking patience and then an adjustment, a turning of the dial. You're not causing major upheaval in the business model because, to your point, how are you changing a business model without the data? Once you have the data, then you know what to do.
Thank you, Lee. I think another big one is getting a mortgage, maybe more difficult now than before because the banks won't, again, have any data to base appraisals on other than the data we had in February, which may not apply today. Maybe the closings that happen in the last month could reflect some distressed sales or renegotiated sales where someone was
Sure.
desperate to make a sale that show an artificial drop. Do you base all your appraisals on that data?
Sure.
Not enough data points, in my opinion, to do that. But banks are going to be more cautious with who they lend to because some people have been beaten up financially.
Yep.
Some people might have lost a job.
Yep.
Some people might have lost the potential for a bonus and a whole host of other things. This is not going to be a quick, easy, simple, restarting of an economy. And there's going to be a health risk throughout this with an entire wave of new protocols to manage it. But I challenge anyone today to ask them, if you were going to the airport today, would you expect to go through security? People would look at you and say, why would you even ask that stupid question?
Right.
But on September 10th of 2001, you would have thought that was a crazy, stupid, idiotic question.
Right.
So we will adjust to new normals, new protocols. We're going to be very disciplined about it because if we are, we will be rewarded. If we aren't, we will be punished.
Right.
And I think, is there any harm in a city like New York or any big city to be more conscious of hygiene? I think it's a gift.
So do I. I think it stays. And I think, and I'm thrilled that it's going to stay to an extent.
It will. It will. And I think developers, for instance, are going to install a whole host of things that we as agents have been begging for years. I've always wanted a beautiful mudroom entry sequence to an apartment. I've always wanted filtered fresh air. I love the idea of touchless everything. You know what I have done before coronavirus? I used to open doors with my elbows. I've always touched buttons with my knuckles. I've been aware of these things, as a lot of people have as well, that
Sure.
there are a ton of germs everywhere. And I do think being exposed to germs is not a bad thing because it builds up immunity.
Of course.
But combine that with really focusing on really proactive healthcare that isn't about treating sickness as much as it is preventing illness. This is going to be a big component to the way we live and the homes we live in. And I think that's very exciting to me. I also think just seeing the sky of China, the sky of Beijing light up without smog, the sky of Los Angeles open up without smog. These are big, bold messages to us that there is a change a-coming. I mean, I think we went through the Industrial Revolution, and that was very difficult to adapt to because it was a time when adapting was difficult. Sure. I think we went through the computer revolution, but now we're going to go through a high-tech revolution, and it's going to be spectacular. And this high-tech revolution that, of course, started years ago is just going to accelerate now. But the key will be to keep it humanized in our homes because, as you can tell, especially the last 6 weeks, your home is your hug. And you and I are in this business. I mean, you do the most exquisite renovations all day long. Why? Not for people to show off to their friends necessarily how they live, but to have a life that is of quality and that showcases the value of hard work to themselves. And, comfort is luxury. Health is luxury. And as I've always said, time is the last luxury. Because
peace of mind is luxury.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And
so I do think there's so many building opportunities that you and I will be talking about for many years to come now, especially urgently now, that will become much more important and will be very valuable to the end consumer for many years to come, regardless of a virus.
So you want your team, you want the company, you want everybody watching this to know patience, because to your point, there's an end. There's an end. There will be an end. Just like you said, there was an end to Studio 54, which was a great party.
And a new club opened,
I think it was Xenon or something like that. You're right. And the takeaway from all of this, I don't think you can quantify it. I think there were so many takeaways.
There's so many takeaways, and I think we're going to learn still so many benefits from this moment that are way beyond just business, that really impact the lives and the quality of how we interact with other human beings. I hope we don't forget the lessons of 2020. And I do think it boils down, if you want cliche, 2020 is the year of clear vision, where we actually see for the first time a lot of things that we haven't seen clearly enough in the past.
If you put that on a t-shirt, I'm telling you.
No, I'm purely Compass.
Oh, I see that, but that's the back of the t-shirt, 2020. I can understand why you're the chief evangelist. I knew it. I've been reading. The first time you ever called me, and you did it. Exactly what you just said. You cut to the chase. You were incredibly gracious. You said, I'd like you involved in a particular project. And I put down the phone and I was like, that was just an unbelievable 3-minute call.
Well, what I love about you, Lee, because you've been shilling about me, I'm going to shill about you now.
Shill away.
I love what you do because you make it easy. And anyone in this world who can save people time, knowing that time is the last luxury, is an asset to our society. So I think what you're doing, especially in a world which has made things so complicated for people unnecessarily, I think that is a service that is going to grow in demand by leaps and bounds. And you should be proud of being a pioneer on that front.
Thanks. I've been getting my rest. I think I subscribe to what you're saying. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to weed out, like it always does, a lot of noise.
Yes.
And you get rid of a lot of noise.
The people who, like you, have been doing things, smartly for a long time, will probably use this time to figure out how to be better. And those who have done things in the past that wasn't the right way, if they re-educate themselves, will do very well. And if they don't, they will learn the hard way that evolution is a train that doesn't wait.
That's right. And you don't want to get caught on the tracks.
Nope.
It's just going to plow you over.
And this world moves a lot faster than it's ever moved. Well, think the Spanish flu versus this one.
Sure.
Spanish flu, millions of people died. Here we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people dying, but it's going to be significantly less impactful considering the scope of the population globally.
Sure.
And everything that we do from here on out is going to be accelerated at a pace that's probably going to shock us. But I'm unbelievably optimistic about the future.
You are. And I look forward to the time when we can sit at a table with 2 cappuccinos and a newspaper. And
followed by an arugula, goat cheese, and truffle oil pizza.
Well, she just came up from working out, so that's going to be the conversation. She literally just walked in. So when we get done and she goes, how did your call go? I'm going to be, he loves the same pizza that you love. So there you go.
And you have the pizza oven. It's not that.
Yeah. Right. You can say hello.
Hi. How are you?
We love arugula, goat cheese, and truffle oil.
Truffle oil, yeah.
That's his favorite pizza.
I put a little bit of honey.
A little bit of honey.
There is actually, you know what mine actually has on it that I love? We serve it at the restaurant. It has figs.
Ooh.
It has not figs, but a fig paste to give
like a fig jam, like a fig jam.
Yes.
I love it.
I forgot about that.
This was
like a nice stickiness to it.
Yes.
All right, on our next episode of Pizzas
but I
That Don't Have
your
the Bread.
name. I'm sorry.
That's Leonard.
Leonard.
Hi.
That's what I call the dog.
That's Kaya.
Most people call me a dog. It's okay.
Well, his name is Lenny.
His name is Lenny. When I'm harsh on him, I say Leonard.
There you go.
Oh.
It's nice to meet you. I like your top. I like the contrast.
It's very chic. It's
bold. Yeah.
Compass couture, not ready to wear. We don't ready to wear.
I like it. Beautiful.
Thank you.
He's a good man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Stay safe. Enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.